It's time to jump off the pitch and jump on some lines. Welcome to the World Soccer Betting Show, presented by Picks and Parlays.
It's Franko and the Genius World Soccer Betting Show, presented by Picks and Parlays. Welcome back, everybody, and we're going to talk Group D, Sean.
Oh, that's the defending champions. The defending World Cup champions. This is a World Cup show, so we're going to talk about the defending World Cup champions, France. And, it's interesting. There's a little side note for this. Do you know every time that France has been drawn in a group with Denmark, they've won the tournament? It happened in 1984 in the European Championship. It happened in 1998 in the World Cup. It happened in 2000 in the Euros. It happened in 2018. Every time. This is a weird thing. Denmark and France have been drawn in this group a lot. So if you're into omens, take France to win the World Cup. But it's very hard to go back to back. There's only, Brazil's done it back in 1958 and 1962. It's almost impossible to win two straight tournaments.
You're doing my job with the facts.
And also, there's the whole thing with the witch doctors around the team. So, it's a little crazy.
Group D, while Sean is giving you the facts in Group D, here's what we got. We got France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia. Two very good teams and two not very good teams.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty clear, who comes out of this group. It's just going to, it basically comes down to, who comes out, France or Denmark.
Well, let's start with the defending champions, France. FIFA rank is 4. It's the 16th appearance for Les Bleus. Winners in 1998, and of course defending champions from 2018. They also won the 2021 Nations League.
Yes.
However, since we're talking about France and Denmark in the same group, they were just in the same Nations League group. France finished third in that group. Denmark finished second. Denmark won both of those group games in Paris and in Copenhagen, and France just one win from its last 6 entering the World Cup.
Yeah, France is a weird team. I mean, I think sometimes they don't really care about some of those things. When you look at this squad, it is just loaded. And you got to start with Kylian Mbappe, who's been, first teenager to score a goal in the World Cup final since Pele back in 1958. I mean, was dominant in that last World Cup run, had so many big goals. And now he's got he's injured, but he should be all right for this World Cup. He's got the reigning Ballon d'Or winner now, Karim Benzema, who was not in the squad last time. There's just, look at this list of talent, and depending on who's injured and who's going to play. I mean, obviously Lloris is the keeper, but, you got Alphonse Areola and Mandanda and Mike Maignan. And then the defenders are Fofana and Badiashile if he's hurt, Fofana obviously if he's back. Varane if he's back. Konate.
Yeah, Saliba, who's off to a good start this year with Arsenal.
Presnel Kempende, Pavard, Lenglet. I mean, it's just on and on. The midfield is ridiculous. Who are you picking? You got Camavinga at Real Madrid, Guendouzi, who's been very good for Marseille, Aouar, who's good for Lyon, Tchouameni, who's at Real Madrid and who's been unbelievable for them. Dimitri Payet, who's been good at Marseille, and then of course the attackers. We haven't even talked about Antoine Griezmann or Giroud. You got Anthony Martial. You got Dembele. I mean, there's just so many players. And Cuckoo, who's going to be at Chelsea. Yep. He's going to be at Chelsea next year. Kingsley Coman, who's never not won a title in his whole 10 years. There's just so many players to pick from. The problem comes sometimes when you have too many players. Who is your go-to people?
And whether those players get along in camp.
Well, they're putting hexes on each other from witch doctors, which is, it's crazy. And the thing too is now here, the second match day, is France and Denmark, and teams rotate. You can't, you're playing 3 matches in the span of, basically 8 or 9 days. You're rotating a little bit. So, and that's the game. France and Denmark is the game. The only good thing I think, for both of those teams is in the first match you're playing Tunisia and Australia, so maybe you can, try to. But you can't lose that game.
Right, you can't.
You got to try to. You have to play your.
You have to play your strongest team in the first game.
Yes, you got to win. Yeah, you cannot. Get messed up there, and I think sometimes, I don't think France or Denmark have a problem there, but I do think this Tunisia team is a little more talented than Australia, but
All right, Denmark. Since we talked about this rivalry they've kind of got going on with France, the Danes, FIFA rank is 10th. It's the 6th appearance for them. Quarterfinals in 1998. The Danes, of course, semifinalists at the last Euro edition. Second in their Nations League group, finished ahead of France, as we just mentioned, beat France twice in the Nations League. Croatia, who was a runner-up in the last World Cup, actually won that group. That Nations League group. And, of course, the star man for Denmark, Christian Eriksen. Now with Manchester, now with Manchester United, and he's overcome that heart condition. That was such a scary scenario during the Euro tournament.
Yeah, and that just could have derailed the team, and they ended up getting through. But excuse me, you once again, you look at some of these players on this team, and they have big time names. Playing for Union Berlin and Sevilla. I mean, these guys are playing. Obviously Christian Eriksen is the leader, playing for Manchester United, and he's just done so well. But Philip Billing for Bournemouth, who's been doing well. Højbjerg for Tottenham. They Club Brugge players. They got a couple Club Brugge players who've been good. They got talent all over the field. Who's going to score the goals? I think. Denmark is one of these teams that is better as a collective. Like they're better as a whole. I think France obviously has more star names, and there's
more individual talent.
Yeah,
on that French
100
team.
times better, more individual talent. It's just that sometimes these individual talent gets beaten by teams, and you saw that in the Nations League.
Yeah, and Denmark with the 2 wins, obviously not afraid of France. Beating them twice in 2022, but. Will that matter at the World Cup, Sean, that they've beaten France twice, or that France has lost to Denmark twice in a row coming into this game?
No, I don't think so. France is just France goes through these things, and I just don't think they, I don't think they care about that Nations League. They didn't want to get relegated, obviously, like England and some of these other teams, but they just had won the last one. I think he was more trying to get some of these players playing time, getting ready, some of the younger players, because they do have to integrate some of the younger players, France. So I don't think so. When you look at the line there, it's already up. They play November 26th at 11 a.m. France is minus 106. Denmark plus 310.
So that'd be an upset, right? That could be when we talk about our upset. Like if you like Denmark to beat France for a third straight time. That would qualify as an upset.
I think that will be the ups. If you're, I don't like. I think France will win the game, but I think if you're looking for an upset, that's your game. Like I just don't see anybody else really kind of doing it.
But there are 2 other teams in this group because you have to have 4. And,
yes.
Australia, the Socceroos. I love that. FIFA rank 38, 6th appearance. It's the 5th World Cup in a row for Australia, which of course qualifies out of the Asian Confederation.
Yes.
Now, round of 16 in 2006, booked their place by beating Peru in a playoff in Qatar. They were 3rd in their Asian qualifying group behind Saudi Arabia and Japan.
Didn't the keeper make the...
Yes, they made the keeper change for the penalty kicks, and he ended up making a save at the end to beat Peru.
That's right.
One advantage I think Australia may have is that it has been playing games regularly in the Middle East.
Yeah, I think that's, in the temperate climate and stuff like that. This is... I can't say this enough. They're playing these games in the winter because it's in the desert. And, even in the winter time, the late fall, really the late fall, right? It's still going to be, they're playing games at 10 o'clock at night because it's hot. Like, these games are going to be hot. There's going to be hydration breaks. I don't know how that's going to affect some of these teams. Some of these teams might be more prepared for it than others.
Right, and Australia was playing some qualifiers in Qatar because of the COVID pandemic. So some of those were being because of the travel restrictions, they were playing some of those qualifiers in Qatar. They play at Saudi Arabia, so they're used to sort of that climate. And I just wonder if maybe that they played their World Cup playoff game against Peru in Qatar. I'm just wondering if maybe that is an advantage for them coming into this group, that familiarity.
It could be. I don't know how good they are. I don't know. Their squad is. It's tough. I mean,
Tim Cahill is not walking through that door.
Yeah. Look. I mean, it's France, Australia. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine that game is going to be close. But who knows with the French? I just they sometimes they do this stuff, and they just play these dodgy results. Obviously, the second game for them against Tunisia could be, it might give them a chance. If Tunisia or Australia wins that game, the second game
the winner gives itself a chance.
You
going
got a
into
chance
that
because you got 3 points.
game,
And if there's no winner, if it's a draw, they're probably both out. But if one of those teams wins, maybe you got a chance on the third day because France is on 6 points. Maybe they just say, we just need a draw and whatever. They're not real worried about it. So, maybe a team could get a result and get 4 points and knock Denmark out. I don't see it, but, it could happen.
Yeah, the other team in this group is Tunisia. FIFA rank is 30th. It's the 6th appearance. Tunisia has never got out of the group stage. It is 7-4-2. And it's last quick math in my head, 13 games, reached the quarterfinals of the last African Cup of Nations and beat Mali in the World Cup playoff to qualify.
Yeah, I watch him a little bit because Hannibal Mejbri, who's United player on loan at Birmingham City, plays for them. He's obviously very young, 19 years old here. He's gonna another future superstar for United, but. I've watched some of their games. I mean, they don't score a lot of goals. These games, if you've watched any of the African qualifiers, you see, it's a lot of tight games.
They lost their last game was a 5-1 defeat to Brazil in a friendly in a game played in Paris.
Yeah, it basically kind of shows you the level there. I mean, because Brazil, obviously the best team. But, I wouldn't be... They play, you look at some of the qualification scores, they play tight games. I mean, I wouldn't be stunned if they won a game here and maybe, gave, Denmark a little issue. I mean, and maybe it's a, 2-0 game where it's 0-0 in the second half and Denmark scores 2 goals to go. But, I don't know. Of the teams that are behind, like obviously Denmark and France are the 2 teams that are going to go through, I think, most likely. But I think Tunisia maybe has a chance to play. I just don't, that's just kind of how I see it.
I just think there's such a big gap between France and Denmark and Australia and Tunisia. But
this is the easiest group, I think, to see who the two clear teams to come out and the 2 clear teams who aren't going to come out.
Again, if there's anything I would say, though, is when you're in a short tournament like this with 3 games, like a funky result can happen. It's not, unthinkable that, maybe you hold on for a draw against France or you nick a goal against Denmark and you've got yourself a 1-0 victory and all of a sudden you're in business because when you have when you play a double round robin, the best teams in 6 games, it's gonna come out. The 2 best teams are gonna come out, but in a short tournament at a neutral venue, crazy things can happen, and that's what if I was Australia or Tunisia. That's what I'd be saying to myself.
Yeah, look, the first day, group match day 1, November 22nd, Denmark, Tunisia at 8 a.m., France, Australia at 2 p.m. Look, if one of those teams happens to get a draw, all of a sudden, Tunisia gets a draw against Denmark because Denmark's just overlooking them, getting ready for the France game. All of a sudden now, that second match day, which is on November 26th, France, Denmark at 11. While those two teams are playing, the other Tunisia and Australia at 5 a.m. Eastern time. Remember, all times Eastern. Tunisia, if they could get it, or Australia against France. All of a sudden, if they win that game, you're on 4 points. Now you go to match day 3.
It puts a little pressure on the top 2 teams in the group, too.
Yeah. Match day 3, Australia plays Denmark November 30th at 10 a.m. Tunisia plays France at 10 a.m. And Tunisia, by the way, is a Francophone country as well. So that could be interesting. If France needs that game against Tunisia, against the players who could, choose to play for France and choose to play for Tunisia, because, France has players that are, could play for any of those countries. That could be interesting.
Who do you got coming out of the group, Sean?
Oh, France and Denmark. France winning the group, Denmark finishing second.
I almost walked into this and took the upset and said Denmark to win the group, France to finish second.
I just don't. I don't think Denmark can.
I think we're in agreement that those are the two teams that are coming out of the group. But I thought hard about taking the upset and going Denmark first, France second.
France against Australia, by the way.
What's the number on Denmark to win that group?
Plus 275. France minus 250. It's worth a shot.
It's worth a shot.
Yeah. There's not a lot of groups where it's worth a shot. When you see some of these other groups, there's not a lot of...
Particularly when you look at the past history between the two teams, just in the last year. Right? It's not like Denmark is scared of France. They think they can beat France. In fact, they believe they can.
100%. I think it's not the worst. It's not the worst play. I mean, if you're going to take a shot on a team to, in the group, one team, that's probably the one, because, no one's beating Netherlands. No one's beating Argentina. No one's beating Brazil. No one's beating, Spain, Germany. It's like they're even. I don't think anyone's beating Belgium. That's the group. I think that's the place where you say, I'll take it.
Can anybody from this group win the World Cup?
Oh, France.
He says, right?
France
he asks
could.
knowing the answer.
I don't think Denmark can. I just don't see Denmark winning 4 games. France definitely could, because their individual talent at some point has to shine through. You have to have some kind of individual talent. I don't think Denmark has enough of that individual talent to win 4 games.
If you're a runner-up in that group, you get Argentina in the knockout round, in that round of 16. Now, if you win the group, you're looking at Saudi Arabia, Mexico, or Poland. That's much more. You're able to navigate that and look at this. Okay, now we've got a route to the quarterfinals, and if you can get to the quarterfinals, sometimes that first knockout round game can be the hardest game, because there's a lot of pressure, right? And once you get through that, everybody you can kind of relax a little bit once you get to the quarterfinals, right? At that point, for some teams, you make it to a quarterfinal, you're almost doing that house money, right? Like a team like Denmark. If Denmark gets to a quarterfinal,
you're playing.
Everyone's playing. Right? You're not the favorite. Again, France can win the World Cup. Obviously, one of the favorites. And again, if I was looking at a dark horse to maybe put a little down on, I would Denmark. We talk about getting out of the group. Denmark to win the World Cup. Right now,
plus 2,800.
It's kind of it's a long shot, but maybe that's one that's worth a little bit of a look at.
Yeah, and your upset would be Denmark, I guess, over France then, right? Plus Denmark in that second game, plus 310. Mine would be in the second game as well. I think Tunisia, as
an underdog against Australia,
as plus 200 in that underdog. I mean, and. I don't know. I just think maybe someone's going to win that game 1-0. You might as well take a shot. But it's definitely worth it. There's a couple spots here where I think you can take a shot.
Oh, we're halfway home. Franco and the Genius World Soccer Betting Show. Again, we're presented by Picks and Parlays.
That's right.
4 groups down, 4 to go. Come back and join us.
You got tomorrow. We got Group E and F. So make sure you and then Group G and H on Thursday. So subscribe, ring the bell, and make sure you put these notifications on so you get these things as soon as they drop, because we're dropping it like it's hot. We're dropping them like it's hot all the time. At different times, we're moving, we're shaking, we're all over the place. So just get those notifications on so you can get this and win some money.
Thanks for watching the World Soccer Betting Show. Like and subscribe if you're new, and make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Missed an episode? Our podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Google Cast, Apple, and more. The World Soccer Betting Show is presented by Picks Parlays.